Hello, my name is Katie Jones. I am the reference librarian in the Bossier Parish Community College Library. And in this video, we're going to look at how to find physical resources in the library for a literary research paper. Now, I know that in earlier videos we did go over how to do a basic search in the online catalog, so this is just going to take it one step further, specifically for literary criticisms and biographical information. So if I take a look at the BPCC webpage, I need to first just get to the library's webpage, which again you will find under Academic Life in the gray bar and Library. So I click on Academic Life and Library, and that brings you to our BPCC Library webpage. If I scroll down a little bit, here on the right-hand side, we have our online catalog. Now remember before we had a search by option. We have words and phrase, an author search, and a title search. Those are the ones that we usually focus on the most. Now this is a time where you may want to pay attention to what those different searches will do for you. So let's say, for example, I want to write a research paper on Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. There are many different kinds of resources that I might possibly use for this paper. So the first thing I want to try, just to see what's available, is just to choose this words or phrase search, click in the search for box, and type Jane Austen. No, I'm sorry, we're going to type Pride and Prejudice first. The Jane Austen will come later. Now notice when I do a search for Pride and Prejudice, it's going to then take us to our online catalog, and we're going to get a lot of results back. Pride and Prejudice came back with 22 titles. Now that does not mean that we necessarily have 22 copies of this book. This just means that 22 of our records did mention the phrase Pride and Prejudice somewhere in that record. So that could include the actual book itself. That could include a movie based on the book. It could also include collections of criticisms. So let's take a look at what some of these different results might look like. So here from our 22 titles, let's first try to find the actual book Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And the thing I usually tell people to look out for the most is who is listed here in the author section. Often we will get books about Pride and Prejudice, and they will list a different author than the one you know as the author of your work. So I scroll down a little bit, and then I do start to see some copies of Pride and Prejudice that list Jane Austen as the author. And generally for these novels, they will be in the fiction section, unless you have some sort of autobiography or different kind of work. So if I wanted the actual book, Pride and Prejudice, I would go to the fiction shelves on the second floor, and I would look it up alphabetically by author. Now let's say that I do want to find a resource that's a collection of criticisms about Pride and Prejudice. We have a lot of those options as well. And usually what you can find is that they will either have extra information in the title, or they'll list someone else as the author. So here we have one that says Harold Bloom is the author, and the title is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Now this says right now that there are no copies available, and that's actually because I checked it out for this video. So I want to show this to you for just a second. These are some of the collections of criticisms that you may keep an eye out for. And in fact, Harold Bloom is a name that you will see come up quite a bit. He's a literary critic, and he has a series of books that are just collections of criticisms on popular works. So in this case, we have one that's on Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, and the entire book is just going to be criticism after criticism. So every chapter is a different source written by a different person that you could possibly use for your paper. So keep these in mind. This is definitely important. But when I want to look at this record, I'm going to click on the title, and here they do give us a little bit more information. It tells me the author, which in this case he's actually more of an editor. I've got my publishing information, and then how many copies we have and where to find those copies. And it looks like we do have 2 copies in 2 different locations, but both of them happen to be checked out at this moment. Now let's take a look at catalog record, which is where they give us a little bit more information about what this book actually covers. And in this case, they've done something very helpful, which is that they have listed the table of contents. And in a book where you have several different authors writing about different aspects of a novel, it's nice to be able to see what actual chapters are included. So for example, if I wanted to focus on the idea of irony in Pride and Prejudice, well, it does look like there is a chapter that kind of focuses on irony. So being able to look at those chapter titles is very helpful. It lets you get a good idea of what that book actually covers and whether or not it would work for your paper. Let's go back to our results. So I'm clicking go back. We still have 22 titles here. So far we've seen some criticisms about Pride and Prejudice. We've seen the actual book itself. And then another thing you'll see pop up pretty often are movie versions of your novel. Often there is a movie version of your novel. So if you do want to watch that, you are more than welcome to do it. We have audio-visual shelves in the back. So what you would do is just ask the people at the circulation desk for that movie. And they can go in the back and they can get that for you. So if you would like to watch the movie, that's definitely an option. But I do want you to pay attention to any time it has that information in brackets saying DVD recording so that you don't go looking for the book thinking it's a book and then it's actually the movie. So that was the Pride and Prejudice. Another thing I want you to look at, I'm going to do a new search. And this time, let's look for information on Jane Austen. Part of these research papers often include biographical information about your author. So a tricky thing you might find is that if I do a words and phrase search, I'm going to get a lot of results back. So I'm going to keep this words and phrase. And so now every time Jane Austen is mentioned anywhere in the record, it will bring that record up. And in this case, that means anything she's written, anything about her, and anything, any movies based on one of her books. So in this case, we have 101 titles. So that can get a little tricky. You don't really want to go through 101 titles in order to find exactly what you're looking for. So one thing you can do is I'm going to go do a new search, and I actually want to see which books do we have that have Jane Austen in the title. So I'm putting in Jane Austen just like I did last time, and here I'm changing it to a title search, and hopefully it will bring up anything that mentions Jane Austen in the title. And so here we have 57 titles, which is still quite a bit, but we've cut it down to about half of what we had last time. Some of those may still be, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice type things, but then we also see books such as The Cambridge Companion to Jane Austen, or, let me see here, An Appreciation of Jane Austen. So there's quite a bit available there for you. And as always, I can click on the name of this book and catalog record, and it will give me some contents and let me know what that book actually discusses in it. So that was just a little bit about how to find a physical book in the library, either your work itself or a collection of criticisms about your novel or the author of your novel. If you need any help, please come by the library, and we are more than happy to help you find whatever resources you need. Thank you.